with Sephiroth is just how difficult it is to always be in the position you like to be in neutral. Because
Understatement of the year, dude.
yes, he wants to be at like about this range or something like that.
Yep.
But if you're swinging in place, there's so much startup that people are going to be able to close the gap. Like if I'm right here, and we're like shield to shield or something like that, and I go for this back air, if you dashed and
with you or something, yeah.
If you dash and shield during the startup of that back air, the situation, we're in the same spot. And when I'm teaching or when I'm trying to teach Sephiroth, that is what I want to avoid the most, and that's what I dive into the most, because this is where the art of nothing comes in. Okay. Because a lot of players, they see an opportunity. Like if I jump at you right here, a lot of Sephiroth players see that as a time to back air or up air to like anti-air.
Yeah.
But it's already too late, in my opinion, because if it doesn't work, now you're just point blank again. Or
pause. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm standing in the situation of the person that, like, I'm Sephiroth being attacked by someone else. Can you hover around the spot where it's too late for me so I can come back and have this as a screenshot
Once
later?
you've gotten like here,
where your double jump's coming out?
In my opinion, like if you start the up air during this part of the jump, like the initial approach, that's fine.
Okay.
But if you are reacting to them being like at full hop height and falling on you, it's too late.
Gotcha. Okay.
In my opinion, there's characters that are super slow and floaty where something like the up air anti-airs come a bit more into play. But for a general rule, I like it because, once again, like the shield scenario we just used, you want to be pre-positioning as much as possible. Because if you're not pre-positioning, then you're always going to be trying to reposition, and you're just never going to be comfortable. A lot of the time, I think it generally is because of, I think, Sephiroth being misunderstood as a character. Because at first glance, I think he seems like just a general sword character where you would just be swinging immediately, right? Like as soon as, like if I'm fighting Mario right here, like a lot of players will probably just start swinging.
Yep.
Kind of like how Cloud would be playing or something like that. But a lot of the time, Sephiroth has to have a little bit more insurance to afford to do that type of swing.
Okay.
So, if we go to that scenario again where we're shield to shield and I do this, you dash and shield and we're in the same scenario, that's where something like Slingshot comes in. Okay. I'm repositioning and I'm not even giving them any visual cue to let them like get back into the scrap scenario. And even something like forward air, rather than a back air in that spot, is so much more valuable because you are shaving frames off. Because the back air is faster the forward air is faster than the back air. So essentially, and if we go into that jump scenario, rather than anti-airing, you just go straight to slingshotting, or if you want to be offensive about it, like if you're jumping in on me, rather than doing something like this, I'll do something like that pivot down tilt. Right. Because it's checking all the boxes that we've been talking about this entire time. It's a bit faster. I don't really have the advantage to justify swinging my sword move, and I'm also repositioning with the move itself for the next scenario if it doesn't work out. And obviously, if it works, I'm popping them up in the and I'm going to be trying to keep track of their resources and whatnot, and repositioning for a valuable spot to start back airing or F tilting, whatever it may be. So that essentially, a lot of the time people think that, okay, now it's time to F tilt or back air. But 9 times out of 10, you usually have to wait one more step, which is easier said than done, especially when there's pressure. For example, if I'm feeling nervous, I'm definitely going to go for back air into an F tilt and just hope they get hit by something. Yeah. But think of how much extra time I've been in place and how much time they have to get into a comfortable range for them. So
bottom line I'm getting is we need to always be on the move because we have such slow startups that we need to take advantage of.
Essentially, yeah. And especially because something that's interesting about Sephiroth is if we start up a game and you're playing Mario and I'm playing Sephiroth, we both know that I'm outranging you. Yeah. So a lot of the time, the value from that doesn't come from actually using those moves. It comes from the way they're preemptively playing around it. So a lot of the time, when someone's trying to zone out someone with Sephiroth, they're not playing around the fact that their opponent knows that, and they're like already full hopping above them and whiff punishing the back air. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sephiroth's value comes from the fact that they are playing around his game plan before it's even in front of them. So you have to be so on the move because of that. You know, it's just like any other win condition in Smash. Like if I'm playing Diddy Kong versus you, you're going to be playing around banana before I even throw it at you. You know what is going to happen if it hits. Yeah. So for me, I'm playing around you playing around the banana, right? Like when you jump to the platform to avoid the trip, I'm going to be right there because that's like...
Yeah, you already know where I'm going before I've made that choice. So you're able to anticipate rather than react.
With Sephiroth, it's more of this a general game plan type of thing where, you know, most characters are getting outranged by Sephiroth, so they're going to accept that fact and play around it before they even get outranged.
Right.
So a lot of the time, the Sephiroth players are trying to outrange them in place, and then they're constantly going to be getting the gap closed on them, and they're never going to be comfortable. So that's why it's really important to not swing at all until like a small advantage has been given to you. Connects to this scenario we've been talking about with like justifying repositioning or swinging when your opponent's approaching. Because, you know, like those scenarios where I said it's too late to do something like a back air up tilt, that is the time to do things like shield, parry, footstool out of shield. And the difficult thing about Sephiroth's out of shield game is it's not going to like be this magical thing where it like fixes all of his problems. It's more so like a few tools to give you to like help you survive rather than like win you games.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's more about letting your opponent know you're willing to do it rather than like winning the game off of it. Like if someone's constantly bullying you and they're always like fast falling on top of you with aerials and you can't really get your timings, you can't really punish them, that's where something like footstool out of shield really comes in, because it's like, hey, I do have something for this, and you're trying to see how they change up their gameplay around that. Like if I footstool dare someone, or even if I go for a footstool dare and it doesn't even work, like let's say I dare, I miss the footstool.
Right.
I'm still okay with that, unless like I'm straight up losing the game for it, obviously.
Yeah.
Because my opponent knows what that attempt was. Like when I'm playing that Fox player that was naring on top of me, they know that that was like a threat. Like hey, I do have this, or I will go for this. You have to be a little bit more respectful when you're pressing buttons.
So that's kind of like when you have to send the flare at least once, just so people know that you're willing to do it and not just position with it. You kind of